The story opens with the harsh screech of wheels and the loud crash of something breaking, marking the sudden end of a life. In the messy scene that follows, people quickly gather around. The crowd whispers among themselves, making cold guesses about the victims. They assume the girl must have been a poor orphan who threw herself in front of a carriage. In those final seconds, the young heroine sees everything clearly. She understands what they are thinking. They will believe she chose to die because she had no hope left. Even worse, some people complain that taking someone poor to the hospital would be too much stress. As her life slowly fades, a single tear slips down her face. She cannot understand why she has always been treated so badly. With her last bit of strength, she holds on to one desperate wish, simply wanting to know what it feels like to be truly loved. Then, everything changes. She suddenly wakes up, surrounded by a soft, glowing light. She notices something strange, a crown resting on her head. A gentle maid appears and offers her a grand meal. Just as she reaches out, ready to eat, a frightening creature with a thick mustache suddenly shows up. It shouts that those who do not work should not eat. The monster forces a mop into her hands, and in that instant, her dream of being a princess breaks apart. Then she realizes it was only a strange dream. In truth, she is just a 9-year-old orphan working in a broken-down inn. A new guest walks in, and the innkeeper quickly rushes to greet a man who looks very important. Our protagonist lets out a quiet sigh, knowing that nobles in this empire never even notice people like her. She tries her best to be thankful for what she has, even though her boss treats her like she is nothing more than a slave. As if called by her thoughts, the innkeeper suddenly begins shouting at her again. This time, she cannot hold back anymore and answers him sharply. He laughs at her attitude and tells her that someone has come to see her. She is shocked. Standing in front of her is the most handsome man she's ever seen. He looks straight at her and calmly says that he is glad to finally meet his daughter. He introduces himself as Bernardo Halbisch de Heartfinder. Her thoughts spin quickly. The Heartfinder family is the same one from the story she had been reading. When he asks for her name, she nervously tells him she is Isolée. He explains that her grandfather once had a painting of her as a baby and says she has grown well. Then he quickly changes his words, saying she looked so small in the painting that he was not even sure it was really her. The greedy innkeeper immediately sees an opportunity and accepts a bag of gold without hesitation, happy to get rid of one less person to feed. Just like that, our protagonist is sold without anyone caring about what she wants. Now sitting inside a rich and comfortable carriage, she finally speaks. She asks him how he knew she was his daughter. His answer feels distant and uncaring. He admits that he only found out about her 2 days ago and does not even bother to look at her while speaking. It becomes clear that her existence had been hidden, and he never once tried to find her until now. She is not fooled. She knows that nothing this good ever comes without a price. Looking straight at him, she asks for the real reason he came. She points out that a true father would act very differently. He gives a small smile, clearly impressed by how sharp she is. He explains that this is simply a deal, and her world feels like it is turning upside down. Then he reveals the painful truth. His own 8-year-old child had died just 2 days ago. He tries to sound calm and says it does not affect him, but the slight shaking of his hand shows the truth of his pain. He claims he can easily have another child. Hearing this, our protagonist feels disgusted by how cold he sounds. He notices how calm she is and comments on it, but she responds strongly, saying he sounds just like her own father and that he is missing something important as a human. He does not argue with her. Instead, he admits that this is exactly the problem. A person without true human feelings cannot take over the family name. When they arrive at a huge estate, he finally explains everything. His own father had told him about a hidden daughter in the family. If he could find her and raise her well, it would prove that he is not completely heartless. That is the truth. She was not brought there to be loved as family. She is only being used as a way for him to gain his inheritance. In fact, he was even ready to buy any random child just to play the role. Even though this situation looks dark, our protagonist quickly notices a chance hiding inside it. She tightens her fist, a small flame of determination lighting up in her eyes. This could be her way out of the life she hates. Without wasting time, she makes her choice. With a bright and carefully planned smile, she suddenly throws her arms around the man and cheerfully calls him Daddy, locking the deal in place. As they step into the huge and overly fancy mansion, she is greeted by a long line of staff waiting to welcome them. The sight alone is enough to make anyone nervous. Her new father gives her a short explanation, but then his cold eyes fall on her, and his first command cuts deep. He points out her dirty clothes and orders the maids to fix her up before dinner. The words hit hard, and she feels a mix of anger and embarrassment. She wonders if she really looks that bad. Maybe she smells a little, but the maids walking toward her look far more frightening than any dirt. The head maid stares at her with a sharp and serious face, and the girl begins to shake slightly. From what she knows, people in this empire are either cold or just pretending to be kind for their own reasons. She quickly strengthens her resolve, refusing to trust anyone so easily. The maids in front of her look like they could swallow her whole. She already knows that someone like her, a commoner, would usually be treated badly. But she decides she will prove to them all that she belongs as a true Heartfinder. The head maid quietly shuts the door, and a strange smile spreads across her face as she politely asks for a moment. Our protagonist braces herself, expecting the worst. But instead, she is suddenly surrounded by warm hugs and excited voices. The maids cannot stop talking about how adorable she is. They spin her around happily, dressing her up with all kinds of clothes and accessories. Our protagonist can barely keep up, trying her best not to faint from everything happening so fast. Then, as if that was not enough, they offer her a pretty lollipop as a gift from all the staff. She feels unsure at first, wondering if she should trust them, but the gentle smile from the head maid slowly eases her doubt. She shyly accepts the candy, and the maids instantly burst into even more excitement, completely charmed by her. For now, she decides to just go along with it. Once she is clean and dressed nicely, she hurries down a very long hallway, worried about being late for her first dinner with the family. The hallway seems endless, and she cannot help but wonder when it will finally end. Then suddenly, a problem hits her. She does not know where the dining hall is. She had been so relaxed after her bath and snack that she forgot to ask anyone for directions. Just as panic begins to rise, she notices a figure standing ahead. It is a boy. She calls out to him, trying to get his attention, but he does not respond. She raises her voice and calls again, and this time he stops for a moment. She feels relieved, thinking she has succeeded. But then he simply starts walking away again. That is not going to work for her. She cannot afford to get lost, so she quickly runs after him and grabs his arm firmly. When he turns to face her, she freezes for a second. His jet black hair and sharp red eyes instantly remind her of someone important. She realizes this must be Ikwa, her cousin from the novel, a talented swordsman who is known to be very popular. She quickly understands that getting close to him could help her in the future, but things do not go as planned. He looks at her with clear dislike and coldly judges her behavior, calling her reckless. He pushes her away, his eyes filled with strong hatred, and makes it clear that meals are only for the Heartfinder family. To him, she is nothing but a stranger who does not belong there. His stare alone tells her to leave the house. She is left shocked by his harsh attitude. The servants had been so kind, so she cannot understand how someone like him could be so rude. Still, a clever smile slowly appears on her face as she studies him. She thinks about how similar he seems to his uncle, and decides that dealing with him might actually be interesting. Without hesitation, she begins to act friendly, praising him like an older brother. The reaction is immediate. Ekwa becomes completely embarrassed, his face turning red as he struggles to handle the sudden attention. He quickly turns around and runs away, too flustered to face her. Our protagonist simply calls after him, telling him to wait, but their moment is interrupted when a maid notices them. The maid kindly asks if they are already getting along, which makes Ekwa even more nervous. He starts to panic, clearly uncomfortable. As they are guided away, the girl cannot resist teasing him, reminding him that he said he was heading somewhere else. He quietly snaps back at her, clearly annoyed. The maid then speaks up again, pointing out that the girls' room is actually very close to the dining hall. Our protagonist feels completely embarrassed as the truth hits her. She had gotten lost just a few steps away from her own room. Ikwa quickly takes his chance to tease her, calling her a foolish sister who cannot even find her way properly. Soon, they both walk into the grand dining hall where a dark-haired man calmly notes that they have finally arrived. At the same moment, a beautiful woman with soft silver blue hair cannot hold back her excitement and starts praising how cute the young girl looks. As our protagonist quietly takes her seat, her attention shifts to the man sitting beside Ekwa. There is something about him that feels cold and distant, as if he is surrounded by ice. He does not even bother to look at her. The silence in the room grows heavy, and the woman tries to ease the tension by asking about the girl's age. Instead of answering, her father, Bernardo, simply gives her a sharp look and nudges her to respond. Pulled out of her thoughts, our girl reacts with confusion before finally giving her answer. The moment she does, Ekwa suddenly jumps up in shock. He cannot believe she is only 9 years old, younger than him by 2 years, yet acting so boldly. His outburst is quickly stopped when his father calls him out. The knight commander only says his name, but that alone is enough to make Ekwa freeze. All his confidence disappears in an instant. He quickly apologizes, but his father does not let him off easily. As punishment, he orders him to run 20 laps around the training ground the next day. Our girl watches the exchange carefully, feeling a drop of sweat run down her face. The relationship between this father and son feels cold and distant. As she eats, a quiet thought crosses her mind that being born into a rich family does not always mean a happy life. The next morning, sunlight fills her room. She remembers the punishment given to Ikwa the night before. 20 laps is no small task. Looking outside, she spots him already running and immediately calls out to him. Without hesitation, she runs over and joins him, deciding they should run together. She quickly turns the situation around, pointing out that if he refuses to see her as family, then she has no reason to call him her older brother. Her words catch him off guard, and he turns red, struggling to respond. For a moment, he even wonders if she truly wants to be family with him. But she shuts that idea down right away, leaving him even more flustered. Watching his reaction, she realizes he is much easier to deal with than she first thought. Then she makes a proposal. She tells him that if she calls him older brother, he should grant her one request. Looking straight into his eyes, she tells him she wants him to teach her swordsmanship. She already knows that his father, the commander of the Imperial Knights, is the one training him. From what she remembers in the novel, most of the story focused on the family head, Sylvanas. So she knows very little about Ikwa's father, Eloise. This is the perfect chance for her to learn more. If Ikwa agrees to teach her, she can gather useful information. She waits for his answer with a hopeful look, but he refuses immediately. He firmly tells her no, especially because she is still a child who knows nothing. He goes on to explain that sword training is not a game and can be very dangerous. Crossing his arms, he makes it clear that his decision will not change. Hearing this, our protagonist remembers something important. There are always two ways to get what you want. One is through talking, and the other is by force. A clever and slightly wild smile appears on her face as she decides to push him. She challenges him directly, asking if he would grant her request if she defeated him in a duel. She knows that provoking him is the only way forward. Just as she continues to push him, a shadow suddenly appears over them. It is his father, the knight commander. Her eyes brighten with excitement, seeing this as perfect timing. The commander looks down at them with a cold and unreadable face. The atmosphere instantly becomes heavy. As he slowly steps closer, his presence feels overwhelming. Our protagonist quickly realizes she may have gone too far this time. A single thought flashes through her mind, telling her she might be in serious trouble. His expression is both frightening and strangely handsome, but she forces herself to stay focused. Thinking quickly, she speaks up and declares that she has challenged Ikwa to a duel. She adds that if she wins, she wants both of them to be trained by their uncle. In that moment, she pulls him right into her plan. The commander looks at her without showing any emotion. Her father lets out a tired sigh and questions whether she might have hurt her head somewhere. However, Bernardo quickly steps in and tells his brother to be careful with his words. Then a mischievous smile spreads across Bernardo's face, as he admits that a bit of entertainment might not be so bad after all, clearly enjoying the situation unfolding before him. He suggests turning the result into a wager, and the two brothers lock eyes, tension rising between them. Bernardo raises the stakes to something unbelievable, declaring that if his daughter wins, he will take control of the development rights for the Sias River waterway in his brother's territory. Our protagonist is completely shocked, her mouth falling open at the seriousness of it. The Knight Commander, however, stays calm without even blinking. Then Bernardo adds the other side of the deal, saying that if his daughter loses, he will hand over the exclusive rights to the siege weapons he is currently developing. The offer sounds so extreme that it almost feels unreal. Bernardo then leans closer, increasing the pressure, reminding her that the development rights are now on the line, and asking if she is truly confident. Our protagonist feels her body shaking slightly, but she still confirms that her father will gain those rights if she wins. To seal everything, he promises her a reward of 500 gold coins. In an instant, her eyes begin to shine with excitement, filled with thoughts of wealth, and she becomes fully ready to fight. Her father can only wonder where she got such boldness from. The duel finally begins. Bernardo asks if she really trained under a war hero, and she briefly remembers her teacher, Master Gunther, who once told her that a spoiled child like Equa would be easy to defeat. The Knight Commander gives the signal to start, and she moves immediately, rushing forward so quickly that Equa is caught off guard. Then, in a strange and unexpected move, she throws her wooden sword straight into the air. The men watching are left stunned, and Equa becomes completely distracted as he looks up at the spinning sword. At that moment, she remembers her master's words about how people who follow strict rules of honor will always expect a fair fight, and how using that against them can give an advantage. Taking full advantage of his distraction, she strikes his cheek with a strong punch. Without giving him time to recover, she uses that moment to tackle him down to the ground. He is completely shocked, unable to react, and she quickly pins him down with a proud smile on her face. As she leans closer, she quietly tells him that she knew someone like him would fall for such a trick. His face turns red as he struggles, but he has no way to fight back. The match is already decided. Equa cries out desperately to his father, insisting that he has not even had the chance to act, but his father remains completely cold. He reminds him that the rule was simple: the first person to land a hit would win. Then he delivers a harsh truth, saying that if it had been a real battle, Equa would already be dead. That alone proves her victory beyond doubt. Equa can only complain that it was unfair, but instead of agreeing, his father shows a faint, chilling smile. He explains that in real combat, catching your opponent off guard is one of the best strategies. He then asks who taught her such a method. She quietly thinks about Master Gunther, who now lives as a simple tavern keeper. The Knight Commander nods in understanding before dragging Equa away for proper training. Before leaving, he calls her name once more. Her own father, Bernardo, walks over and pats her head so hard, it feels more like a hit than a gentle touch. He remarks that 500 gold coins seem too little for such a performance, clearly impressed. She asks him to be a bit more gentle, and he casually offers to give her anything else she wants. Her eyes light up again, seeing another opportunity, as she begins to think about what she truly needs at that moment. Meanwhile, in a dark room that feels like a throne hall, a man with long white hair lets out a cold, chilling laugh. He finds the entire situation amusing, especially how she managed to turn the tables on Equa using her clever thinking and unexpected swordplay. A dangerous smile forms on his lips as he admits he is eager to meet his granddaughter. However, one of his men speaks up, mentioning that Equa was defeated by a cheap trick. The old man's expression changes instantly. His hand tightens into a fist, and his face twists with anger as he repeats those words in a cold tone. He makes it clear that there is no such thing as a dirty trick in a real fight. The man in front of him trembles in fear and quickly falls to his knees, begging for forgiveness. The patriarch stands over him, his voice sharp and unforgiving as he explains that once someone is dead, none of those complaints matter. In the end, every battle only has two possible results. Either you win or you are defeated. The men standing around can feel the weight of those words, and they begin to shake in fear. A quiet, sly smile slowly spreads across the old man's face as he looks pleased with himself. He calmly states that he might actually get along well with his granddaughter, and then suddenly rises to his feet. His aides are thrown into panic, quickly asking where he plans to go. With a light and almost playful tone, he announces that it is time for him to pay a visit to his lovely granddaughter. At the same time, our protagonist, Isolé, stands proudly in a fresh new dress, her face filled with strong determination. A maid approaches her and informs her that everything she asked for has been prepared. Isolette recalls her father's advice about thinking carefully about what she truly wants. For a brief second, she wonders if she should get something for Ikwa, but she quickly pushes that thought away. Right now, what matters is the beautiful spread of cakes and sweets placed right in front of her. Her eyes light up with joy as she takes her first bite, and the taste is so unbelievably good that she instantly blacks out from pure happiness. Her body falls backward, causing the maid to panic and scream, worried that there might be poison in the food. But Isolette quickly sits back up, her face red with embarrassment, and explains that she is perfectly fine. The food was simply too delicious for her to handle. As the maids leave the room, they quietly talk among themselves, feeling sympathy for her. They assume she must have lived through a difficult life and decide among themselves that they should always keep sweets ready for her from now on. Meanwhile, Isolette continues enjoying her treats happily until she suddenly feels someone watching her. When she looks up, she sees a small and very cute girl with black hair and bright red eyes staring at the table. Isolette recognizes her immediately from the novel and realizes that this must be Ikwa's younger sister, Lu. The little girl looks completely focused on the cakes, almost drooling at the sight. Isolette cannot help but feel her heart soften at how adorable she looks, and without thinking too much, she offers her a slice with a cheerful smile. Just as Lu reaches out to take it, a maid suddenly rushes into the room, shouting loudly. The maid quickly knocks the plate out of the child's hand, sending the cake crashing to the floor along with broken pieces of the plate. The maid then explains in a worried tone that Lucia has a weak body and is not allowed to eat sweets because of her medicine. Hearing this, Isolette feels a deep shock. She realizes she almost gave the girl something that could have harmed her. The situation makes her feel sad, thinking about how unfair it is that someone born into such a high family cannot even enjoy something as simple as cake. Later on, Lucia is seen sitting alone in her room, quietly drawing on the floor with a sad expression. Isolette calls out to her and walks in with a cheerful energy. She proudly presents a small and nicely wrapped bag. With excitement, she explains that she and the maid Ria work together to make special cookies using ingredients that are completely safe for Lucia to eat. She assures her with a warm smile that it is perfectly fine. In return, Lucia hands her a piece of paper. At first, Isolette tries to read it, but Lucia softly explains that she cannot read. Isolette pauses, then looks at the paper again and realizes it is not a letter, but a drawing. It shows a messy but sweet picture of the two of them hugging each other. Her heart melts instantly, and she gently pulls the little girl into a real hug. That night, Isolette walks quietly through the garden, holding the drawing close to her chest. She makes up her mind that she will help Lucia learn how to read and write. Suddenly, she hears a soft sound that catches her attention. Curious, she looks through the bushes and is surprised by what she sees. Ekwa is sitting alone, looking completely broken. She wonders what he is doing out there by himself. Sensing that someone is nearby, he quickly turns around and raises his wooden sword, asking who is there. When he sees her, he relaxes a little and asks why she's out there alone. Isolette steps out from the bushes and playfully asks if he had been crying. He quickly turns away, his face turning red as he denies it. The two of them sit together on a stone bench, and after a short silence, he gently takes her hand, which surprises her. He then admits that ever since he lost to her, He has not been able to properly hold his sword. He feels as if all the effort he put into training has been pointless. Iseult quickly tries to comfort him, explaining that what she did was just a trick, but he quietly shakes his head, not convinced. He quietly admits that no matter what, the truth is that he lost. That loss makes him feel lost inside, as if he no longer knows which path to follow. He even begins to doubt himself, wondering if he was never talented to begin with. Hearing this, our protagonist is completely shocked. The one who is meant to become the Empire's greatest swordsman is actually thinking like this. She quickly asks if he is planning to give up, but he looks at her in surprise and immediately denies it. He grips his clothes tightly, his determination returning. He explains that the training he has been doing is not enough to reach his goal, and that he needs something more. His red eyes begin to burn with a new kind of determination as he asks her to let him meet her master. In that moment, Iseult understands clearly that this strong will, this refusal to give up, is exactly what will make him the greatest swordsman in Barros. Not long after, the two of them set out together to find Master Gunther. They wear simple cloaks to hide their identities as they move through a busy marketplace filled with people. Ekwa keeps calling her name, but she quickly snaps back at him, telling him to hurry and keep up, while also reminding him to call her big brother. He complains about how uncomfortable the cloak feels, but she explains that it is necessary to avoid attracting trouble. Though he grumbles, he still grabs her hand so he does not lose her in the crowd, even as he continues to pout. She tells him that once they pass through this area, they will be fine, but just as she says that, a group of suspicious men suddenly blocks their path. Their leader looks at them with a greedy smile, saying that he had been wondering how to earn some money, and that two noble children have just walked right into his hands. The two freeze, realizing they have been caught. Ekwa whispers for her to stay behind him, but then panic sets in as he realizes he has lost his wooden sword. The leader of the thugs grows impatient, asking what they are whispering about. Ekwa quickly pushes Iseult behind him and tells her that when he counts to 3, she should run. She points out that he does not even have a weapon, but without wasting another second, she suddenly turns and runs. She calls out behind her, telling him to stay alive, leaving the thugs completely confused by her reaction. She knows this is her only chance. She has to find Master Gunther. However, as she runs, she crashes straight into someone and falls to the ground. Looking up, she sees a tall man wearing a hood, and he clearly does not look pleased. He questions why a noble child is in such a dangerous place. Before the thugs can reach her, the man moves with incredible speed, taking them down one by one using only a wooden sword. He quickly frees Ekwa and scolds the thugs, warning them not to touch children, even if they are nobles. At that moment, she realizes who he is, and her face lights up with excitement. It is Master Gunther. She happily calls out to him, but when he turns toward her, his expression shows nothing but confusion. He asks who she is and how a noble child knows his name. Our protagonist is completely stunned, wondering if he has truly forgotten her. Just then, a man with bright red hair looks Ikwa over with interest, a playful smile on his face. He recognizes Iseult and comments on how much she has grown, saying he almost did not recognize her. He takes a drink and casually mentions hearing that she was taken in by a noble family, but must have been kicked out already, laughing as if it is amusing. Ekwa clearly does not like the comment, but he ignores it and focuses on the real matter. With a serious expression, he introduces himself and then gestures toward Iseult. He takes a deep breath, and his words hang heavily in the air, leaving Iseult surprised and silent. Gunther studies him carefully and notes that he has clearly been training for a long time. Ikwa then speaks with urgency, asking for help. Our protagonist quickly steps in, acting confidently as she explains that Ikwa is a noble child and that she has money saved. However, Ikwa begins to sweat, unable to even look at her. She slowly realizes the truth and asks if he actually has no money at all. He looks away, embarrassed, and she cannot believe it. Still, she refuses to let the situation fall apart. With confidence, she pulls out a heavy bag of coins that shines brightly. She sighs dramatically and says she will pay for it, even if she has to be paid back later. Seeing the money, Gunther's eyes immediately light up, and he agrees to take on the training, saying that if Isolde is the one paying, he will make an exception. Our protagonist smiles brightly on the outside, looking like a perfect strategist, but inside her thoughts tell a completely different story. Right now, her money is exactly zero. Gunther narrows his eyes at her, studying her more closely, then casually remarks that she looks familiar. He turns his attention to Ekwa and asks if he knows Eloise. The moment that name is mentioned, the atmosphere around Gunther turns cold. Losa reacts with clear annoyance, calling Eloise a jerk and asking what about him. Isolette quickly steps in to explain that Eloise is Ekwa's father and also her uncle. Hearing that, Gunther raises his eyebrows in surprise and notes that he had not realized Eloise was part of such a high-ranking family. A darker expression crosses his face as an old memory flashes in his mind. He begins to recall the battlefield, where rank meant nothing and survival was all that mattered. His voice grows heavy as he speaks about how Eloise once gave him an order to charge straight into enemy lines. The sudden shift in his tone makes the children tense up. He points to the scar on his face, explaining that he got it because of Eloise, even though he had been the superior officer at the time. After a moment, he lets out a breath and calms himself, saying that it turned out fine since they won the battle. In his mind, he remembers Eloise standing there, calm and composed, yet completely different when blood was involved. He warns them seriously that while Eloise usually appears calm, the sight of blood can make him act wildly. He then gives a chilling piece of advice, telling Isolette to never let Eloise see her bleed. The warning sends a shiver through her. Just as quickly as his mood changed before, it shifts again. He casually suggests that since he's been paid, he might as well offer them an extra bit of help by revealing a weakness. Hearing that, Isolette's eyes widen with excitement. Information like that could be very important. She leans forward eagerly and asks him to tell her. Gunther pauses for a moment, letting the suspense build as the two children wait closely. Then he finally reveals that Eloise has a soft spot for weak and cute things. The unexpected answer hits so suddenly that it feels like a shock. Isolette is left completely confused, her thoughts unable to process what she just heard. Later, as they ride back home in the carriage, the golden trees outside blur past. She feels relieved that Gunther left her some money for the fare, but her mind is still stuck on what she learned. She quietly wonders how someone like Eloise could possibly like cute things, imagining him holding something soft and small. Then she sighs, thinking about how she has not even managed to get close to her own father yet. Ikwa, sitting across from her, speaks up and mentions that it seemed like her uncle had taken a liking to her. Isolette is confused by this idea and questions how her father could possibly like her. Ekwa responds that it is just a feeling, and continues to explain that his father has always been strict, even toward his own children. Yet he still helped her get sword training. Isolette dismisses this, insisting that it was all part of a deal to secure the waterway development rights, and that she was only being used. However, Ekwa suddenly speaks sharply, leaning forward as he explains that his father never makes risky deals like that. He points out that the value of the waterway rights does not match the siege weapon rights her father offered. He adds that even the royal family has never been given full control over such weapons. Betting something so important on a simple duel between children makes no sense. He believes that his father only wanted to give her a chance. As he finishes, his voice grows softer, and he admits that she is lucky to be trusted by her father. His words strike her deeply. For the first time, she sees him not as someone difficult to deal with, but as a lonely boy who longs for his parents' attention. She realizes that he is braver than she thought. Speaking gently, she suggests that maybe that is why his father placed such a big bet on him. Ikwa looks at her, surprised, and then a small honest smile appears on his face. When they finally return to the mansion, Isolette suddenly realizes how much time has passed. She worries that she might be scolded for sneaking out and quickly rushes toward the door. As she reaches for the handle, a strange and uneasy feeling stops her. Something feels wrong, but she pushes the thought aside and opens the door anyway. The moment it swings open, both of them freeze in shock. Eloise is lying on the ground, completely unconscious. Her mind fills with panic as she tries to understand what happened. Then she notices a polished black shoe stepping forward into view, and a cold voice echoes through the hall. At last, they return. A man with long white hair is sitting casually in a chair, yet his presence alone fills the room with overwhelming power. He calmly says that he has been waiting for Isolette. The moment our protagonist sees him, a chill runs through her entire body. She finally understands who he is, the very first head of the Count's family, the man resting his foot on her father's chest, the strongest person in the world. The legendary Sylvanas Harand Heartfinder is right there in front of them. He stands like a figure of quiet danger, graceful but deadly. Isolette cannot hide her shock. She realizes he looks far younger than she ever imagined. From the novel, she knew he was supposed to appear youthful, but seeing it in real life feels unreal. Still, there is no mistaking the heavy pressure surrounding him. The air itself feels thick because of his power. He calls her name again, his smile cold as he gestures toward the ground beside her fallen father and tells her to sit. Our protagonist feels panic rising fast, almost like she might break down. She wonders how she is supposed to react to someone so handsome yet so terrifying. She forces herself to stay calm, knowing she has no other choice but to try something bold. Sylvanas casually explains that he was only teaching her father the rules of the house, but she refuses to accept that. With a shaking hand, she points at him and tells him that no matter how angry he is, he should still respect his elders. Then, gathering all her courage, she loudly calls him Big Brother. The entire room goes silent. The servants freeze in disbelief, and Ekwa looks completely stunned. Even Sylvanas himself seems caught off guard. For a moment, nothing happens, and then a loud, genuine laugh bursts out of him. He finds it amusing that she would call her grandfather by such a name. Inside, she feels relieved that her risky move worked, but the relief does not last long. His smile disappears just as quickly, replaced by a cold and dangerous glare. He explains that he still cannot forgive what happened, his voice filled with anger, as he mentions that Eloise went to the battlefield without reporting properly. Suddenly, the entire room is filled with a terrifying wave of killing intent. The pressure becomes so strong that it feels suffocating. Isolette cannot handle it and collapses, struggling to breathe. Just moments ago, he seemed almost like a beautiful figure, but now he feels like pure danger. She tells herself she cannot give in to fear and forces her body to move. Slowly, she stands again and steps forward, even as the energy in the room feels sharp and wild. The servants can only watch in shock as she refuses to back down. Sylvanas's eyes show a hint of surprise at her determination. She speaks again, her voice trembling but firm, telling him that sitting on someone older is not right, especially when that person is his own son. Tears begin to form in her eyes as she adds that no child could ever feel happy being treated so harshly. Ekwa looks at her, forgetting his own fear for a moment. Sylvanas's expression darkens, but before he can say anything, Ekwa suddenly steps forward and stands in front of her. He bows deeply and apologizes to his grandfather. Isolette is surprised by his action. Ekwa explains that she had just arrived at the mansion and should not be punished, and if anyone must take the blame, it should be him instead. Watching him, she realizes how afraid he truly is of his grandfather. The silence that follows is broken by a soft laugh that slowly grows louder, filling the entire hall. The two children are left confused by the sudden change. Sylvanas finally lifts his foot from Eloise and says that since Ekwa spoke up like that, he will let it go. He admits that Isolette has courage, just as he would expect from his grandchild. She can only stare, still trying to process everything. Then, out of nowhere, a beautifully designed dagger appears in his hand. He offers it to her, explaining that he heard about her victory in the duel, and that defeating Ekwa is already impressive. He tells her to use it for protection and gently places it in her small hand. The butler gasps at the sight, clearly surprised. For a brief moment, a warm and genuine smile appears on Sylvanas's face as he looks at her. He softly welcomes her to the family and takes her hand, officially accepting her into the household. Isolette stands there, confused by everything that just happened. Things are not going the way she expected at all. Instead of being distant or cruel, her grandfather suddenly seems to have plenty of free time, and he chooses to spend it with her. Before long, he is even braiding her hair, asking her to tell stories about her life as a commoner whenever he has a chance. But today, the conversation takes a serious turn. He brings up a request from the emperor, asking him to send troops to a war that is already clearly lost. He calmly asks what he should do, almost as if sending his soldiers to die is not such a terrible thing. Without thinking, our protagonist immediately blurts out that it would just be sending them to their deaths. The moment the words leave her mouth, she regrets it. She starts to worry that what she said might sound too mature for a child. Her thoughts begin to race, but Sylvana simply continues braiding her hair as if nothing unusual happened. She cannot help but feel surprised at how skilled he is. She cheerfully comments on how good he is at braiding hair and asks if he has ever done it before. He calmly tells her that this is actually his first time. That answer shocks her even more. She cannot believe that someone known as the strongest man in the world has such careful and gentle hands. Then, without warning, he hands her a large book that shines slightly under the light. It is a book about the theory of sovereignty, and he tells her that he expects her to give him an answer the next time they meet. Our protagonist feels her body tremble. She wonders if giving such a heavy book to a child could be considered a kind of punishment. Realizing she cannot hide the truth, she looks straight at him and admits that she cannot read. The silence that follows feels heavy. She notices the change in his expression and begins to panic, thinking that he must be disappointed in her. She feels like her position as his adorable granddaughter might be at risk. In desperation, she clenches her small fists and asks him to give her 1 week to learn. He raises an eyebrow, considering her request. She quickly thinks that if she can learn to read in just 1 week, despite never having the chance before, he would surely be impressed. After a short pause, he calmly responds that he will give her 3 days instead. Hearing that, she begins to panic even more. She cannot understand how she is supposed to learn both reading and writing in such a short time. She tries to negotiate, holding up 4 fingers in a cute attempt to ask for more time. But he simply responds with a slight smile and lowers it to 2 days. At that moment, she feels completely defeated. She realizes this is not only about learning to read. This is a test. He is challenging her to prove something important. He tells her to prove that she possesses the source of their family's strength. Understanding this, she gathers her courage and picks up the book. She has always worked hard, and she convinces herself that 2 days will be enough. However, once she begins, she quickly realizes how difficult it really is. She groans and presses her face into the book, wishing she had someone to teach her. Just then, a voice interrupts her frustration, calling her foolish. It is Ekwa. She immediately reacts, telling him to leave if he only came to bother her. But he stands there quietly, looking slightly hurt. He softly reminds her that she helped him with his sword training, and now he wants to return the favor. Hearing that, she feels touched and suddenly hugs him, which makes him extremely embarrassed as he insists that she call him Big Brother. Now that she has someone to guide her, her energy returns. She eagerly asks him to start teaching her. He cannot help but smile at her enthusiasm. As they prepare to begin, she notices a small figure peeking over a chair. It is Lucia, watching quietly to support her. Seeing this makes her even more determined. She decides that she will give it her all. The lessons begin, but they are not easy at all. Even learning the alphabet feels incredibly difficult. Her thoughts start drifting back to her grandfather's earlier question about the emperor, so she asks Ekwa about it. He explains that the emperor and their grandfather are simply close friends, but something about that answer does not feel right to her. She quickly pushes the thought away and focuses on what matters most, learning to read. With the help of Ekwa and Lucia, she studies as hard as she can, staying up through the night and pushing herself beyond her limits. Late at night, Ekwa wakes up and notices that Isolette is no longer in her room. He quietly looks into the library and finds her there, still sitting at the desk with her books, fast asleep from exhaustion. Seeing her like that, A small and proud smile appears on his face as he realizes that when she decides to do something seriously, she truly gives it her all. At last, the day of the promise arrives. Her grandfather sits on his throne, looking calm and powerful at the same time. From the doorway, her small group of supporters watches nervously, barely breathing. Our protagonist takes a slow, deep breath to steady herself. She begins to read from the book, her voice quiet but clear. However, she has barely finished a single line when he suddenly tells her to stop. She freezes instantly, her eyes widening in shock as confusion fills her mind. He calmly explains that simply reading is not enough. What he wants is the answer to the question he asked before about the emperor. In that moment, everything inside her feels like it is breaking apart. She had spent 2 whole nights without rest, studying harder than ever before, and now it feels like all that effort means nothing. A heavy wave of despair crashes over her as she begins to doubt herself. She wonders if she is not worthy of being part of this family. Just like in her past life, her mind goes completely blank, and it feels like she has walked right into a trap. Then suddenly, she remembers her conversation with Ikuo in the library. A realization begins to form. He had said that the emperor and her grandfather were close, but something about that never felt right. And then it clicks. The answer she once knew from the story returns to her. She lifts her head and looks directly at him, declaring that they are not equals, and that he stands above even the emperor. The atmosphere changes instantly. A sharp and dangerous look appears in his eyes, and the air around them grows cold. He questions her, asking who she really is. Everyone else in the room is filled with fear as they watch the situation unfold. She remembers clearly that in the story, Sylvanus was not only the strongest man, but also the most powerful figure in the world. He presses her further, asking how someone who was once a commoner could possibly know something like that. Panic rises inside her. She knows she cannot reveal the truth about the novel. Thinking quickly, she makes up an answer, saying she learned about the relationship between their family and the royal court from books and newspapers after she learned to read. She waits nervously, her heart beating fast as she asks if that answer is enough for him to finally accept her as part of the family. Slowly, a smile appears on his face as he tells her that she is passed. The relief she feels is overwhelming, almost enough to bring her to tears. Behind her, her small group of supporters reacts with joy. He praises her, saying that not only did she learn to read and write in such a short time, but she also went beyond that and continued learning. He acknowledges her as a true member of the Earl's family. Hearing those words, she finally feels accepted. His voice softens as he tells her she has done well. But before he can say anything more, someone suddenly calls out her name. Her vision fades, and everything turns dark as her body gives out and she collapses to the floor. The exhaustion from pushing herself too hard over the past 2 days has finally caught up with her. Sylvanus quickly moves to her side as she loses consciousness. Even in that moment, her final thought is filled with happiness, as she realizes she has truly been accepted into the family. When she wakes up again, she finds herself safely lying in her bed. He is there beside her, and simply tells her that she did well. Then he turns to his butler, and gives an order that changes everything. He commands them to prepare a private study just for Isolette, something even his own sons were never given. Hearing this, her eyes widen in surprise as she realizes what it means. She has truly been recognized as part of this family. Life, however, does not stay calm for long. Our protagonist had been trying to stay quiet and avoid trouble, but trouble seems to find her anyway. After her intense moment with Sylvanus in the Grand Heartfinder estate, things begin to shift. Sylvanus suddenly stops visiting her, and a small part of her feels relieved, thinking she has already overcome one big challenge. But just as she begins to relax, something new pulls her in. The adorable Lucia asks to play hide and seek, and naturally, she brings along her unwilling brother, Iqua. He clearly does not want to join, but Isolet teases him until he agrees to be the one searching. As he begins counting, Lucia hides in the most obvious place possible, right behind a curtain. Seeing this, Isolet decides to find a better hiding spot, and quickly runs down the hallway. However, her escape comes to a sudden stop when she crashes straight into two men who look far from friendly. She falls to the ground, shocked, as one of the men looks down at her with a cruel expression and wonders who this strange child might be. Then, a dark and unpleasant smile slowly spreads across his face. One of the men sneers down at her and casually calls her the commoner child. Our protagonist is completely confused, wondering who these people even are. Suddenly, their expressions twist into cold, hateful looks as they question her about meeting the head of the family again. Their voices grow sharp, and their eyes turn icy as they step closer, surrounding her with pressure and judgment. For her, this kind of treatment is nothing new. She is used to people like this, and honestly, she is just tired of dealing with them. She stands up calmly, ready to walk away and ignore their pointless insults. But one of them suddenly snaps and accuses her of lacking proper manners, adding that it is only expected from someone of low birth. That is the moment she stops. A soft but chilling smile appears on her face as she turns back toward them and responds that even nobles can behave badly. The men are stunned by her boldness, unable to believe what they just heard. One of them struggles to speak, his anger rising quickly, and then he completely loses control. He shouts in rage and reaches for his sword, warning her not to go too far. Without hesitation, he raises his weapon, ready to strike a child. Our protagonist flinches, closing her eyes tightly as she braces herself. But before anything can happen, a cold voice cuts through the air, ordering them to step away from her immediately. It is Ikwa. He arrives just in time. Her eyes open in surprise as she sees him standing there. A bright blue energy begins to surround him, crackling with power. It is swordsmanship energy. The two men freeze instantly, terrified by what they are seeing. A child using such power is something they should not be witnessing. They begin to sweat, trying to laugh it off and pretend it is nothing serious, claiming they were only joking. But Ekwa does not accept their excuse. His gaze is sharp and dangerous as he tells them that even if they apologize to him, they will still have to answer for trying to harm Isolette. The men are clearly frightened now and quickly back down, making weak excuses before rushing away in panic. They almost trip over themselves as they escape. The moment they are gone, Ekwa's serious expression disappears, replaced with worry as he looks at her. Our protagonist can only stare at him, still processing what just happened. She thanks him sincerely and asks if he really used that powerful energy to protect her, knowing it must have taken a toll on him. He tries to act like it is nothing, but she knows better. From what she remembers, he was not supposed to awaken that ability until much later. He then explains the complicated situation within the family. The Heartfinder family holds so much power that even the Imperial family cannot match them. Because of this, many nobles are desperate to gain their favor. With rumors spreading that the grandfather may retire, the family has split into different groups, each fighting for control. The situation became so tense that the grandfather turned the mansion into a safe place to protect the younger members of the family. What was meant to be a peaceful home is now filled with hidden danger. Everything begins to make sense to Isolette. She asks why those men targeted her, and Ikwa explains that it is likely because she has grown close to their grandfather, which others may see as giving her uncle an advantage. Then suddenly, both of them remember something important. In all the confusion, they forgot about Lucia. Fear immediately takes over as they realize she could have run into those dangerous men. They rush back to where she was hiding, but she is no longer there. The curtain is empty. Ikwa begins to panic, fearing that something terrible may have happened to her. Isolette feels her heart racing as she calls out Lucia's name, trying to think of where she could be. They search the gardens quickly, calling for her again and again. Then a memory suddenly comes to Isolette, and she tells Ekwa to follow her as she runs toward one of the bedrooms. When they arrive, they find Lucia safe and sound, curled up peacefully with her teddy bear. The relief they feel is overwhelming. Isolette rushes to her and hugs her tightly, whispering how glad she is that she is safe. She gently praises her, telling her she did a great job hiding. Watching this, Ikwa forms a quiet but determined smile and makes a promise to himself that he will protect her from now on. Later that night, Iseult lies awake in bed, thinking deeply about everything that happened. She realizes that all of this trouble started simply because she became a little closer to Sylvanas, and that small change was enough to spark dangerous jealousy around her. She tightens her grip on the blanket with her small hand, her thoughts growing heavy. She realizes that Lucia and Equa are still just children, and they could easily be dragged into the dangerous struggle for power at any time. A firm thought forms in her mind as she tells herself that she has to become stronger if she wants to protect them. To her, they are not just people around her anymore, they are her family. She looks down at her tiny hands, feeling the weight of her new determination pressing on her shoulders. The next day, after an intense and exhausting sword training session, she is completely drained. As she slowly walks down the hallway, a bright and cheerful voice calls out to her. It is the lively Madame Sinaloa, Ikwa's mother. She greets Isolate warmly, full of excitement, as she proudly explains that she built the playground equipment herself. The conversation starts off light, but then Sinaloa brings up Isolette's upcoming social debut and asks if there is anyone she might be interested in. However, as she speaks, her expression suddenly changes. The cheerful mood disappears, replaced by something darker and more serious. Isolette is caught off guard, having never seen this side of her before. There is a cold and protective anger in Sinaloa's eyes, and it is clear she is thinking about something painful. The atmosphere around them shifts instantly, the warmth gone, replaced by a heavy silence. Then the truth comes out. Someone once tried to kill Ikwa. Hearing this, our protagonist struggles to process the words. Her mind repeats them as shock spreads across her face. She remembers the incident clearly, because it had become a major scandal, even among common people. The women explain that Maryanne is known as a strange person that others tend to avoid, but the real issue is her unusual obsession with Sylvanas. The idea of someone with such a dangerous reputation being fixated on one person feels unsettling. Then everything begins to connect. If Maryanne is so attached to Sylvanas, it would make sense for her to treat his grandson kindly. But the truth is the opposite. The reason is revealed. Before Isolette arrived, Equa was the one Sylvanas placed all his expectations on. Realizing this, Isolette understands what must have happened. Maryanne likely saw Equa as someone standing in the way of Sylvanas' attention. The thought makes her gasp. It becomes clear that Equa was targeted because of that. The woman continues, explaining that Sylvanas does not easily favor anyone, so Equa had to work extremely hard to earn his recognition. Then one day, during a gathering, a vase suddenly fell from above, aiming straight for Equa's head. Maryanne and her attendants were present at the time. Even though the incident was officially treated as an accident, there was strong suspicion that it was carefully planned. Maryanne is known for being very precise, leaving no evidence behind. The woman warns Isolette that Maryanne also dislikes her for staying in the main household and asks her to promise that she will never get involved with such a person. Even without proof, the danger surrounding Equa was very real. Our protagonist nods and agrees, promising to stay away. Still, a feeling of regret begins to settle in her heart. She remembers how she had interacted with Maryanne before and wonders if she had been too careless. As they finish talking and begin to leave, the door suddenly opens. The maids ask what is happening, and standing there with a calm and unsettling smile is Lady Maryanne herself. The other woman reacts immediately, clearly uncomfortable, and questions why she arrived without notice. Isolette quietly observes her, realizing this is the person everyone has been talking about. Maryanne, however, speaks politely, claiming she came to apologize for the rude behavior of her subordinates. As part of her apology, she presents a gift, a basket filled with the finest citrus fruits. Seeing this, Isolette's eyes light up because she remembers how delicious those fruits are. Maryanne calmly explains that her subordinates acted on a misunderstanding and assures them that they have been warned not to behave that way again. However, the other woman does not believe her and directly questions whether she truly had no involvement. Maryanne simply maintains her composed smile, saying that she is aware of the rumors surrounding her and admits she cannot prove her innocence. Still, she asks them to at least accept the gift as a gesture of apology. Our protagonist feels confused by the situation. Maryanne is nothing like what she expected. The woman finally accepts the gift, but firmly tells Maryanne to leave. However, Maryanne does not move. She calmly states that she has another reason for being there and needs to speak with Sylvanas about the matter of troop deployment. The woman firmly tells Maryanne that Sylvanas will return the next morning and orders her to leave. But Maryanne calmly responds that she cannot do that because she is acting under direct orders from the Emperor. She explains that she will remain there under close watch. With no other option, the woman instructs our protagonist to return to her room. Isolette agrees, deciding she needs time to sort out her thoughts. Later, as her maid Rhea gently brushes her hair, she keeps thinking about everything that happened. Maryanne did not seem as dangerous as she expected. Maybe everything people said about her is just a misunderstanding, like the twists in a story. Rhea softly wishes her good night and leaves, and Isolette waves before climbing into bed. Just as she begins to fall asleep, a faint sound comes from the door. Thinking it might be her maid, she quietly gets up and walks across the room. She approaches the large door carefully, wondering if someone is there. Suddenly, the door slowly opens, and she gasps. A dark figure stands in the doorway, and a gloved hand pushes the door wider. Her eyes widen, and a drop of sweat forms as she recognizes the person. It is Maryanne. The woman steps inside, her presence heavy in the quiet room. She calmly explains that she got lost while trying to find another room and apologizes for frightening her. Isolette feels a sense of relief and tells her it is all right, then gives her directions. Maryanne thanks her politely and turns to leave. Isolette says goodnight, thinking that although Maryanne seemed intimidating at first, she actually appears quite gentle. But just as she is about to leave, Maryanne pauses and asks if she has gotten used to living in the mansion. Isolette answers honestly, saying that everyone has been kind to her, especially Sylvanas, who even allowed her to enter the restricted study. The moment she says this, the atmosphere changes completely. She continues innocently, explaining that she was told she could go in and out freely. Maryanne's face darkens, and her smile disappears. A cold and dangerous feeling fills the room as she leans closer and asks how Isolette managed to get so close to Sylvanas. Her expression twists with clear jealousy, and she suddenly grabs Isolette's chin tightly. Isolette is frozen, unable to move. Then, just as quickly as it began, Maryanne's expression softens again, and she laughs lightly, claiming she was only joking. With a final good night, she leaves the room as if nothing happened. Left alone, Isolette trembles as she tries to understand what just occurred. The moment she mentioned her grandfather, Maryanne completely changed. All the warnings she heard, the incident with Equa, and the strange obsession now feel real. A frightening thought forms in her mind. If everything she heard is true, then after Equa, she might be the next target. She realizes she has to find out the truth if she wants to keep everyone safe. The next morning, she has not slept at all. Maryanne's words keep replaying in her mind. As she walks through the hallway, she overhears the maids whispering among themselves. They are talking about Maryanne. One of them mentions that she is skilled in creating medicines and that she experiments with new substances, even using people to test them. Another maid brings up the sudden death of her husband, Duke Ashford, who had seemed perfectly healthy. They begin to suspect that Maryanne may have been responsible. The idea that she could have been after his wealth and might now be targeting Sylvanas sends a chill through Isolette. Hearing all this, she stops in place, realizing that if these rumors are true, then Maryanne's strange behavior the night before makes complete sense. It confirms her fears. She continues walking until she reaches the dining room, where she sees Sylvanas. She wonders if he is aware of these rumors and why he would allow someone like Maryanne to stay close. When he notices her, he greets her warmly and invites her to join them. Before she can refuse, he lifts her up and places her at the table. He introduces her again to Maryanne, who smiles brightly and mentions that they have already met. Isolette feels her thoughts racing as she realizes she is now sitting at the same table as both her grandfather and Maryanne. As Sylvanas offers her food, she can feel Maryanne's cold gaze fixed on her. It is the exact same look she saw the night before. She wonders if it is because she is sitting next to Sylvanas, and suddenly she asks for a moment, a plan quickly forming in her mind. Our protagonist decides to move and sit closer to Maryanne, thinking that she has no choice but to face her directly. She needs to understand why Maryanne is so attached to Sylvanas and why her attitude feels so hostile. As she moves closer, she can almost feel a dark and thorny presence coming from the woman. It makes her even more certain that she has to uncover the truth herself. Breakfast at the Heartfinder mansion continues, but the tension in the room grows heavier. Maryanne calmly apologizes for not greeting her properly the night before, but then something unexpected happens. She admits that she was the one who entered the wrong room by mistake. The memory immediately returns to Isolette. She recalls how Maryanne suddenly grabbed her face with a serious expression, making her think she was in danger. The thought sends a chill through her again. Maryanne, however, looks genuinely surprised, as if hearing the story for the first time. Sylvanas reacts instantly, his expression turning cold as he demands to know what exactly happened. Isolette quickly realizes that her original plan has failed. She needs to change her approach before things become worse. She decides to take a safer path by revealing Maryanne's strange behavior and hoping Sylvanas will step in to protect her. Gathering her courage, she prepares to speak. But before she can do anything, Sylvanas suddenly bursts into laughter. He turns to Maryanne and casually asks if she treated this child the same way she treated him when they first met. He recalls how she once laughed without greeting him properly, and explains that he initially thought she was rude, but later realized it was simply her awkward way of showing kindness. Hearing this, our protagonist is completely shocked. She had believed Maryanne was acting carefully to deceive him, but it seems Sylvanas trusts her far more than expected. At that moment, Maryanne suddenly coughs and looks weak, claiming she feels dizzy because she did not sleep well. Isolette quietly watches everything, observing her closely. When Maryanne meets her gaze, her thoughts seem sharp and full of tension, as if she believes Isolette is testing her in front of Sylvanas. Even so, she admits to herself that she simply does not like Isolette. Sylvanas then shifts his attention back to Isolette and asks if she has also heard the rumors about Maryanne. He calmly defends her, saying that she is just misunderstood and struggles socially. Then he reveals something surprising, explaining that the former Duke of Ashford was not a good man and spent most of his time drinking and gambling. Hearing this, Isolette feels something deep inside her stir. The idea of being misunderstood brings back painful memories from her past life. She remembers being accused of things she never did, and being avoided by other children because of rumors spread by their parents. She remembers how lonely and hurt she felt, wondering why no one believed her. Back in the present, she overhears maids whispering again. They question why Maryanne does not return home if she is unwell and suggest that she might be dangerous, even capable of poisoning someone. They also accuse her of stealing. Hearing this, Isolette freezes. Her thoughts begin to race as she tries to understand what is true and what is not. She considers the possibility that Maryanne might have taken something from the mansion, but then her past memories return again, reminding her how harmful baseless accusations can be. Suddenly, she steps forward toward the maids and firmly tells them that speaking like that is wrong. She asks them if they have actually seen any proof. The maids are shocked to see her standing there. Isolette continues, speaking with quiet strength, explaining that it is unfair to judge someone without evidence. She understands better than anyone how rumors can grow and trap a person in lies. From a distance, Maryanne watches her, her expression unreadable. Later that night, Isolette lies in bed, unable to rest. She keeps thinking about her actions, wondering why she defended Maryanne when she had planned to be cautious. Deep down, she realizes that she saw something familiar in her, someone who might also be hurt by the way others look at her. With that thought, she finally begins to fall asleep, but her rest does not last long. A sudden sound wakes her, and panic takes over as she realizes she cannot move properly. Her hands are tied, and something covers her mouth, making it hard to breathe. Fear quickly spreads through her chest. Our protagonist suddenly realizes what is happening. She has been taken in the middle of the night and is now being dragged into a carriage. When she fully comes to her senses, she finds herself tied up, fear tightening around her chest. She struggles against the ropes, her mind racing as she tries to understand how this could have happened. She had been safe in her room, inside a heavily guarded mansion, yet someone still managed to take her. The thought makes it clear that whoever did this must have strong ties to the Heartfinder family. As she struggles harder, a rough hand suddenly presses against her face, forcing her still. Two figures stand over her, watching closely. One of them smirks, impressed that she understands the situation so quickly despite being a child. He warns her to stay quiet until someone arrives, or she will be left alone in the dark. Fear grips her tightly. These people are not joking, they intend to kill her. Then a shadow appears at the doorway, and her heart seems to stop. When the figure steps forward, her eyes widen in horror. It is Maryanne, dressed in dark clothing, looking almost like a figure from a nightmare. At that same moment, back at the mansion, Sylvanas sits calmly in his office reading, thinking quietly about Isolette. He reflects on the rumors surrounding Maryanne, but hopes that the child will grow well despite everything. Suddenly, a guard bursts into the room, calling his name in panic. Sylvanas looks up, annoyed at the interruption, but the guard quickly delivers the news that Isolette has been taken. The words freeze him instantly. The maid saw her being taken away in a suspicious carriage. In that moment, everything becomes clear to him. He stands up, his expression turning cold and dangerous as he orders a carriage to be prepared immediately. He makes it clear that he will personally bring her back. Meanwhile, in a dark and abandoned place, Maryanne looks down at Isolette with a twisted smile. She explains that the reason for everything is simple. Sylvanas smiles when he looks at Isolette. Hearing this, Isolette is shocked. Maryanne continues, saying that she could never understand what Sylvanas means to her. Memories flash through her mind of a time when she was mocked and looked down on, and how Sylvanas was the only one who ever reached out to her. To Maryanne, he became everything, and now she believes that Isolette has taken that away from her. Isolette quickly denies this, but Maryanne, lost in her anger, refuses to listen. She shouts for her to be quiet, her emotions completely out of control. She glares down at the child, filled with jealousy and rage, and gives a simple but terrifying command to the men. She tells them to get rid of her. Even the kidnappers hesitate, surprised that she would go so far over something like this. Realizing her life is in danger, Isolette quickly tries to reason with her. She asks if Maryanne plans to keep removing anyone who gets close to Sylvanas and points out that even if she disappears, it will not make Sylvanas turn his attention toward her. Her words strike deeply, causing Maryanne to pause. Trembling with anger, she pulls out a sword and demands to know what Isolette thinks she understands. She declares again that Sylvanas is everything to her. The men hold Isolette down as Maryanne approaches, her emotions completely unstable. She speaks of how Sylvanas was the only one who ever accepted her, and questions if Isolette can understand how it feels to lose that attention. She insists that she will remove anyone who gets close to him, no matter how many people it takes. Her face shows a mix of devotion and madness, but Isolette does not give up. She calmly tells Maryanne that she now understands why people misunderstand her. Hearing this, Maryanne freezes. Isolette continues, explaining that people judge her based on how she appears, but that the truth may be different. She admits that she also believed the rumors at first, but now chooses to believe in her instead. Then she asks what Sylvanas would think if he saw her acting this way, and tells her that she can still stop before it is too late. Maryanne looks into her eyes and is reminded of Sylvanas, the resemblance shaking her deeply. She yells for Isolette not to look at her like that and drops her sword for a moment, overwhelmed. But then her emotions surge again, and she shouts that everything would have been fine if Isolette had never existed. She raises her hand ready to strike. Isolette can only stare up at her, frozen in fear. Just before anything can happen, the door suddenly bursts open. Sylvanas steps inside, his face cold and filled with anger. Maryanne immediately turns toward him, raising her weapon as she prepares to face him. Her hand shakes as she grips the weapon, but Sylvanas stands before her, with eyes burning in pure anger. His voice comes out low and threatening, as he demands to know what is going on. The air between them becomes heavy as they face each other, neither backing down. His tone makes it clear that this is no game and that there will be serious consequences. He slowly draws his sword, ready to show what happens when someone dares to oppose the Heartfinder family. Just as he is about to strike, our protagonist rushes forward and places herself between them, begging him to stop. She stands firmly, insisting that everything is a misunderstanding. Maryanne is left completely shocked, unable to understand why the child would defend her. Sylvanus lowers himself slightly, his voice cold as he asks what she means. Isolette explains that she saw everything clearly. She saw the hesitation in Maryanne's movements, the tears on her face, and the conflict in her eyes. She looks directly at Maryanne and asks if she truly intended to kill her at all. Even Sylvanus seems surprised by her words. Isolette continues, her voice soft but filled with feeling, saying she understands the pain of being misunderstood. Memories of her own past come rushing back, of being accused of things she never did and treated like an outcast. She remembers how she once thought it might be easier to become the villain people believed her to be, only to realize that it only hurt her more. Looking at Maryanne with a calm and knowing expression, she says that is why she chooses to believe in the person standing before her now. She reaches out her small hand and gently asks her to make peace. Maryanne is overwhelmed, unable to believe the kindness being shown to her. Slowly, she lowers her head and says she will accept any punishment, even if it means giving up her life. But Isolde immediately cries out, refusing to accept that. Sylvanus then steps forward, his expression still unreadable, as he says that going this far means she must have been ready for the consequences. He adds that such actions cannot be forgiven lightly. Hearing this, Isolde feels her heart sink as she realizes she still needs to convince him. Then his tone changes slightly. After listening to Isolde, he admits that Maryanne's true nature may not have changed after all, surprising everyone present. He says that he will also choose to believe in her. Tears fall from Maryanne's eyes as he tells her not to make such reckless decisions again. Our protagonist feels relief wash over her, realizing that she has managed to reach him. Perhaps he is not as cold as he seems. Sylvanus lifts Isolde into his arms, and as they leave, Maryanne watches them quietly before whispering her thanks. After everything settles, Isolde is safe, and Maryanne is kept away under strict watch for a period of time. Sometime later, the mansion becomes filled with gifts that arrive one after another. It becomes clear that they are all from Maryanne. Isolde finds herself surrounded by presents every day, and among them is a special box. Inside, she discovers a beautiful brooch with a gem that matches the color of her eyes perfectly. She cannot help but imagine Maryanne carefully choosing it and smiles, realizing how easy it is to understand her intentions now. For the moment, it seems that one problem has been resolved, and Maryanne appears calmer, enjoying her days quietly. However, not all of Isolette's thoughts are peaceful. A troubling memory returns to her mind, one filled with darkness and blood. She remembers a scene where someone lay collapsed in a pool of blood. That memory comes back strongly one rainy day when she finds another man lying on the floor in the grand hall. Feeling nervous, she slowly moves closer, knowing that no one else is around because of the festival. She decides to check if he is still alive, but just as she leans in, his eyes suddenly open. She cries out in shock and jumps back. The man slowly sits up, looking confused, and asks who she is. She is surprised by the question and reminds him that they have been eating together regularly. After a moment, he seems to recognize her and realizes she is his brother's daughter. She confirms her identity with pride. She then points out the blood covering him, but he dismisses it casually, saying it is not his. Hearing this, Isolde freezes. The man is covered in blood, yet he acts as if it does not matter at all. He looks tired as he tells her to return to her room before walking away, leaving a trail of blood behind him. She trembles as he walks away, her fingers tightening around her dress. The memory of the novel comes rushing back, describing the Count's family as cold and ruthless people who could step over a dying person without even pausing. And now, She has to live among them and survive. But this time, she is not alone. Later, she talks with Ikwa and casually mentions that his father seems like a very cold person, recalling what she saw in the hallway. She cannot help but find it strange that Ekwa is so kind, even though he shares the same blood. In her mind, his father seems like someone driven by war, with empty and frightening eyes. Ekwa's expression slowly becomes serious. He quietly explains that depending on the situation, their grandfather can be even more ruthless than anyone else. He adds that his father carries that same nature within him. His voice grows softer as he admits that one day, he might become like his father too. Hearing this, our protagonist feels a deep ache in her chest. She realizes he is afraid of turning into someone he does not want to be. Wanting to comfort him, she quickly offers him a piece of sugar cane. At first, he hesitates, unsure about the simple treat, but after tasting it, he is immediately drawn to its sweetness. Seeing his reaction, she smiles and promises to take him to a place where he can enjoy even more delicious food. Eventually, the long-awaited day arrives when she is allowed to go outside for the first time. She feels excited and ready, dressed nicely for the outing. However, just as she is about to leave, she notices Lucia staring at her clothes with shining eyes. The little girl gently grabs her skirt, clearly wanting to come along. Remembering that Lucia has always been too weak to go outside, our protagonist cannot bring herself to refuse her. She decides they should ask for permission together. Lucia's face brightens with hope, but when they ask, the answer is immediate and firm. It is a simple no. The rejection crushes their excitement instantly. Just as they begin to lose hope, a memory of a tense moment flashes through her mind, reminding her that she cannot give up so easily. Gathering her courage, she calls out, trying to get his attention. She carefully suggests that he might want to know what she has been studying all this time. Ekwa quickly joins in, suggesting that all three of them could go together and show what they have learned. Our protagonist then adds that she is also good at singing and dancing and would be willing to perform if it would please him. Her boldness catches him off guard. He pauses for a moment before suddenly laughing, clearly amused by her determination. He wipes a tear from his eye as he continues to chuckle. Then, finally, he agrees. He grants them permission to go out, along with a carriage and servants for protection. Even so, our protagonist senses something unusual about his reaction. It almost feels like he expected this and had planned it all along. When she looks at him suspiciously, he simply gives a knowing smile, leaving her unsure. Soon after, they are told to get ready, as the day will not last forever. They arrive at a lively town filled with people and activity. She looks around wondering where to start and feels a wave of excitement. At the same time, she remembers her past life when she could only look at such places from afar, wanting many things but unable to have them. Back then, she would have been chased away from shops. But now, everything is different. She can buy whatever she wants. Ekwa tries to stop her from buying too much, but she brushes it off, saying it does not matter. Her attention is quickly drawn to a shop marked by a large pink ribbon. Inside, she finds all kinds of items, from books to decorations. She rushes in happily, pointing at things she likes. Soon her arms are full of purchases, including a lovely music box. She smiles brightly, feeling happy that they can enjoy this moment freely. But then reality hits her. She suddenly wonders how she is supposed to carry everything back. Before she can think of a solution, a loud voice calls out sharply, grabbing her attention. A loud voice suddenly cuts through the air, accusing someone of trying to steal merchandise. The shopkeeper is shouting at a small boy who nervously denies it, saying he was only looking. For a brief moment, our protagonist feels a flash of fear as the scene reminds her of her own past, when she was treated the same way. The shopkeeper grabs the boy's wrist and says he will take him to the back to confirm the truth. The boy cries out that he has done nothing wrong, but the man raises his hand, ready to hit him. Seeing this, our protagonist quickly moves forward to stop him, but before she can reach them, another figure rushes past her. She is knocked to the ground, and the items she was carrying scatter everywhere. Looking up, she sees the same boy also on the floor. She asks if he is all right, but instead of answering kindly, He snaps at her and tells her to watch where she is going. She is shocked by his reaction, and as she looks at him more closely, something about his face catches her attention. His eyes are empty, filled with a strange sadness, reminding her strongly of Maryanne. The boy flinches when he notices her staring. She tries to help him up by reaching out her hand, but he quickly pushes it away and accuses her of bumping into him on purpose. His face turns red, showing he is flustered. She quickly denies it, but he does not stay to listen. He gets up and tells her to leave him alone before running off. She watches him go, unable to forget the look in his eyes. Later, back in the carriage, the mood becomes quiet. Ikwa notices that she seems lost in thought and asks if something happened at the shop. She hesitates, then slowly explains that she saw a boy who looked just like Maryanne. Before he can react, she quickly brushes it off, saying it is nothing important. Lucia reacts with confusion, while Ikwa makes a blunt comment about her not having friends, which annoys him immediately. After calming himself, he tells her in a mysterious tone that she might see that boy again soon. She does not fully understand, but the idea gives her hope that she can clear up what happened. Just as she thinks the day is coming to a peaceful end, another surprise awaits them. When they return, her father greets them warmly, but quickly tells them they need to begin practicing for a recital. Then he reveals that nobles and even members of the royal family have been invited, and they only have 1 week to prepare. Hearing this, she is completely shocked. The next morning, she wastes no time and wakes her siblings, reminding them that time is short. Since Lucia cannot sing loudly, she decides their performance will be a dance. Ikwa questions her choice, wondering if she picked it because she feels confident in dancing. From above, their grandfather quietly watches them, a rare smile appearing on his face. His aide stands beside him and asks if he is testing her again. The aide notes that Sylvanus rarely acknowledges anyone, yet Iseult keeps proving herself. Sylvanus admits that she has been quite interesting to watch. Finally, the day of the recital arrives. The estate looks more grand than ever, filled with decorations and guests. Iseult hides behind a pillar, feeling nervous as her heart beats fast. Suddenly, her father appears behind her, asking what she is doing. Startled, she tries to brush it off, but then notices he is wearing the earring she bought for him. Feeling a bit bold, she asks if she deserves a reward for all her hard work. He calls her shameless, but agrees anyway. Overjoyed, she promises to do her best in the performance. However, things take another unexpected turn when a maid informs her that she will not be performing immediately, but will instead sit in the front and welcome the guests. It is an order from Sylvanus. Before she can even react properly, she finds herself standing at the entrance, greeting a long line of nobles. Taking a deep breath, she gathers her courage and decides to show everyone that she is worthy of her place. The garden around her looks beautiful, showing all the effort that has been put into preparing for the event. Just as she is taking everything in, her father suddenly appears beside her. He studies her expression and casually notes that she clearly has not been told the full details yet. Then he explains that this role is more than simply greeting guests. Placing a firm hand on her shoulder, he makes a shocking announcement, calling her the acting head of the house. Our protagonist is completely stunned. Acting head. Now everything makes sense. A wave of nervousness rises inside her, but at the same time, she feels a quiet happiness deep within. The butler's voice soon echoes loudly as he announces the start, and the doors are opened. Guests begin to enter one after another, filling the space with excitement. It has been years since the Heartfinder family hosted an event, and everyone is eager to make a good impression. A nobleman approaches and offers her a gift, which she accepts politely while her mind races. She realizes this is her opportunity. If she can impress these people, she will be fully accepted as a true member of the family. As she continues greeting the guests, she overhears talk that the Ashford family has also been invited. Someone points toward a graceful woman dressed in purple, noting how similar she looks to the boy beside her. The whispers confirm that it is Maryanne and her son. Hearing this, Iseult quickly turns her attention toward them. Maryanne approaches with a gentle smile and politely asks if her son can greet her as well. She steps aside, revealing a young boy dressed neatly in formal clothes. The moment Isolette sees him, she freezes. It is the same boy she met before. Her long-awaited chance to clear things up has finally come. With excitement, she reaches out and grabs his hand, smiling brightly. The boy is completely taken by surprise, his face turning red instantly. Realizing her mistake, she quickly lets go and apologizes, explaining that she was just happy to see him. Inside, however, she is panicking, hoping she has not made things worse. Before she can say more, a graceful woman steps forward and asks if they already know each other. The boy's sister pulls him closer, and he immediately denies any connection, coldly saying that she must be mistaken. His words hit hard, leaving Isolde speechless. The woman then calmly tells him to come along, and the two children walk away without looking back. Isolette watches them leave, her expression falling as she feels she may have already ruined her chance. Later during the event, she sits quietly on a grand chair, feeling a bit lost. Her uncle notices her mood and gently teases her, asking her to smile so he does not look bad as the head of the family. She simply calls his name, still distracted. He quickly notices she is hiding candy and understands it is her way of calming herself. He asks what is troubling her, and after some hesitation, she admits that she tried to be friendly with the Ashford boy, but now thinks he dislikes her. Her uncle then asks if she knows anything about the Ashford children. His expression grows serious as he explains that their mother, Maryanne, has been misunderstood for a long time, and because of that, her children have been treated the same way. People avoid them, leaving them isolated. Hearing this, everything begins to make sense to Isolde. She understands now why the boy looked so distant and hurt. Those eyes reminded her of her own past. She realizes that she saw a part of herself in him. Her uncle, with a knowing smile, tells her that he saw them heading toward the garden and encourages her to go after them. He explains that kindness can slowly open people's hearts and believes the boy might respond to her sooner than she expects. With renewed determination, she grabs her candy and decides to go. She is ready to face them again, this time with more courage. As she runs through the garden searching for them, she starts to worry that she may not find them after all. Just then, she hears voices nearby. Carefully looking through the bushes, she sees a group of children talking among themselves. They are speaking badly about the Ashford children, calling them strange and frightening. The others nod in agreement, clearly uneasy. Then they notice her. The moment they recognize Isolde, everything goes quiet as she steps forward, her expression turning cold and firm. One of the children nervously asks if they said anything wrong, but our protagonist does not hold back. She steps forward with a sharp tone and calls them out, saying they should be ashamed for acting this way at a Heartfinder event. One of them tries to argue that she is only a commoner, but she cuts him off immediately. She reminds them that her past does not change her current position as the acting head of the house. Then she warns them that she has memorized their faces and calmly wonders what would happen if she reported their behavior directly to their families. Hearing this, the group panics and quickly runs away. From behind a pillar, the boy who had been watching everything quietly steps out. He clenches his fist, something shifting in his expression. He approaches her and apologizes, saying he will deal with those children himself, but she only looks at him with concern. She then apologizes for speaking so casually to him earlier, and gently suggests that they could play together another time at his home, since the party is too busy right now. He looks confused by her words and asks why she would do something like that for him. He questions why she would defend him when there is nothing good about getting involved with him. Instead of answering directly, she simply smiles and asks for his hand. She tells him she has something that might help him feel better. When she opens her palm, colorful candies appear. She explains that she heard sweets can help comfort someone, so she wanted to share them with him. He takes one, looking slightly embarrassed, and says he will give it to his younger sister because he does not like sweets. He then explains that he lost track of her while running away from the bullies and believes she must be hiding somewhere, scared. Without hesitation, our protagonist offers to help him search, and he agrees. At the same time, another boy is looking for her, wondering if she is busy with her duties. Just as he is about to go find her, he notices something is wrong. A crowd has gathered around a tree, and a small girl is stuck high up among the branches, crying for help. The adults nearby are only standing around, unsure of what to do. The boy feels powerless, thinking he can only watch. Suddenly, a voice breaks through the noise as our protagonist arrives with the boy beside her. The little girl recognizes her brother and calls out to him in fear. Our protagonist tells her to stay still because it is dangerous, while the boy suggests waiting for the adults to act. But the girl asks who will help them, pointing out that no one is stepping forward. Hearing this, our protagonist feels a shock as she looks around and sees the adults doing nothing. The situation reminds her of a painful moment from her past, when no one helped her either. Just then, the girl loses her grip and begins to fall. Without thinking, our protagonist rushes forward and catches her. The two boys stare in disbelief as she safely holds the child. Soon, the adults finally react, rushing over and asking if they are hurt while calling for help. The little girl clings to her, thanking her through tears. However, our protagonist does not feel satisfied. She realizes that if she did not hold her current position, she might have also stood by like the others. Rising to her feet, she speaks firmly, her voice filled with authority. She points out that so many people were present, yet no one tried to help. She questions how they could simply stand by and do nothing. She tells them that no matter what they think, the children did nothing wrong and do not deserve to be ignored. She asks them, as adults, to remember their responsibility to help others in the future. The boy watches her with wide eyes, clearly impressed. Just then, a man approaches and praises her actions while lifting her up. It is then revealed that she injured her ankle during the fall. Hearing this, she feels her heart sink, realizing she may not be able to perform in the recital she worked so hard for. Bernardo looks down at her quietly, his expression difficult to read. He tells her that he thought she was a clever child, yet she went and did something reckless the moment he looked away. Our protagonist now stands alone on a wide shining stage, with the entire noble audience watching her every move. Ikwa watches from the side, his heart heavy with regret, as he blames himself for not staying by her side. His red eyes show clear worry as the crowd begins to whisper among themselves, some noticing the rare and expensive device used to amplify her voice. Taking a shaky breath, she apologizes to the two who practiced the dance with her and explains that because of her injured foot, she had to change the performance to a song instead. Ekwa feels even more guilt as he watches her, knowing that it was partly his idea. Meanwhile, her grandfather stands still, his face cold and unreadable. Despite everything, our protagonist gathers her courage and announces that she will begin her song. She closes her eyes and starts to sing, choosing the only song she truly knows. As her voice fills the room, it brings back a painful memory from her past life, of a lonely child walking through dull streets, feeling as if nothing good had ever happened. She pours all of those feelings into her voice, hoping that the people listening can understand her pain, and they do. Among the audience, a young noble watches her closely, completely drawn in by her voice. She directs her song toward her grandfather, the one person whose approval matters most to her. When she finishes, she lets out a quiet breath, feeling a sense of release. A noble woman in the crowd wipes her tears, moved by how emotional the song was, and soon the entire hall fills with loud applause. Hearing the cheers, our protagonist looks around in surprise before turning toward her grandfather. Her heart lifts when she sees that he is actually smiling. Overcome with happiness, she steps forward to run to him. But in her excitement, she forgets about her injured foot and loses her balance. Just as she is about to fall, someone catches her. It is her grandfather. He lifts her into his arms, his usually strict expression softened with concern. He calmly tells the crowd that his granddaughter is tired and announces the end of the gathering. Carrying her carefully, he leaves with her. Later, she slowly wakes up in her bed, feeling confused about when she fell asleep. She hears a voice asking if she is awake and turns to see her grandfather sitting beside her. She quietly asks if the party has ended, noticing faint music still playing outside. He gently tells her that she worked too hard and needs to rest. Still, she gathers enough strength to ask him if he liked her performance. Seeing how tired she is, he smiles softly and tells her that it made him very happy and that it was a perfect gift. Hearing this, she feels relieved and peacefully falls asleep again. He watches her for a moment, his expression soft as he notices how she sleeps so deeply. He quietly adjusts her blanket and gently calls her a troublesome child before wishing her a good rest. As he leaves the room, however, he is suddenly stopped by a cold presence. It is his son, Eloise. He speaks in a sharp tone, questioning why his father keeps visiting the girl. The Duke, clearly tired, tries to dismiss the conversation, saying they can talk later. But Eloise refuses to let it go. He grabs his father's arm and demands an answer, asking if he truly plans to make that child the head of the family. His anger grows as he reminds him of her past as a poor worker in a small inn, insisting that allowing her to become the heir would damage the family's reputation. The Duke lowers his gaze for a moment, looking almost defeated as he agrees. But then something changes. A sharp, dangerous smile slowly forms on his face as he admits that he is becoming interested in Isolette. His mind flashes back to the image of her studying so seriously, and he decides that he wants to watch her growth closely. Without warning, he stomps his foot, releasing a powerful wave of energy that fills the space. Eloise is forced to step back, shocked by the overwhelming force coming from his father. The Duke's eyes shine with excitement as he notices his son's impatience and teases him, saying that this only makes him more curious about what kind of future the child will have. His smile carries a cold edge as he suddenly grabs his son by the collar, showing an unusual intensity that leaves Eloise stunned. He has never seen his father act like this before, and the situation unsettles him deeply. Meanwhile, outside, Ikwa sits alone, letting out a quiet sigh. The party had been larger than anything he had ever experienced, and it was his first time interacting with so many nobles. He feels like he failed completely, unable to stand out or prove himself. All he could do was watch as Isolate became the center of attention. His father's harsh words echo in his mind, calling him useless. And even though he understands his father's own insecurities, a darker thought begins to form. He wonders if his grandfather might also start favoring Isolde the same way. Trying to think clearly, he tells himself that the most capable person should lead the family, and he cannot deny that Isolde is already showing remarkable ability. Still lost in these thoughts, he is interrupted when a maid approaches and informs him that his father has called for him. His heart grows heavy as he prepares to face him. The next day, our protagonist wakes up, complaining softly about being stuck in bed again. But when she sits up, she is met with an unexpected sight. Maids are entering the room, carrying a huge pile of gifts. She stares at them in disbelief, asking what all of it is. The maids happily explain that after her performance, many people admired her and have been sending gifts non-stop. Surrounded by so many presents, she feels both happy and slightly embarrassed. She begins opening them one by one, realizing it may take a long time to go through everything. The first gift she opens comes with a note thanking her for helping someone and asking to visit her. Inside, she finds items all in the same bright color, including a dress, a bag, and flowers. Seeing everything matching so perfectly makes her laugh, thinking about how similar the giver must be to their family. She blushes slightly, realizing that her relationship with them is improving. Just then, a voice speaks from the doorway, commenting that she looks more energetic than expected. She looks up to see the boy standing there. Without hesitation, she teases him, asking if he came without bringing anything. He responds confidently, asking her what she wants instead. Her eyes light up as she comes up with an idea. She asks him to walk with her by the pond so they can spend some time together. Soon after, she is finally allowed outside again after being confined to rest. Sitting in her father's arms, she feels pure happiness as she tells him how boring it was staying inside all day. Full of excitement, she notices the pond and asks to be put down. Once on the ground, she stretches her arms, enjoying the fresh air and the feeling of freedom. She thinks back to the days she spent resting, surrounded by people who constantly checked on her with concern. It is a strange feeling for her, not being used to having so many people care about her. She sits down among the flowers, quietly enjoying the moment. However, her father quickly reminds her to be careful. She simply waves him off, thinking he has become a bit too protective, but deep down, it does not bother her at all. In fact, spending time like this feels warm, almost like a real father and daughter moment, and she wants to enjoy every bit of it. Then her father suddenly leans closer, with a strange look, and asks if she knows something. Without warning, he tells her a chilling story about a ghost that appears in the pond nearby. Our protagonist freezes instantly, her imagination running wild, and just as she starts to feel uneasy, he casually says he needs to step away for a moment. Before she can react, he turns and leaves her there alone. She stands by the water, completely stunned, trying to convince herself that it was only a joke. Still, a sense of fear slowly builds inside her. She cannot believe he actually left her alone like that. She tries to brush it off, telling herself it is nothing serious. But then a sudden noise from the bushes makes her jump. Her eyes move toward the water, and for a second, she sees a strange figure staring back. Her heart nearly stops before she realizes it is just her own reflection. Feeling annoyed at herself for getting scared, she decides to leave the area quickly. But as she turns, her foot slips, and she falls straight into the cold water. Shock fills her as she sinks, unable to react in time. When she looks up, she sees Ekwa standing by the edge, watching. She reaches out her hand, trying to call for help, but the water fills her mouth, cutting off her voice. Panic takes over as she struggles to breathe, feeling the light above her slowly fade. Then suddenly, she hears someone calling her name. It is her father. His voice is filled with fear as he rushes toward the pond. When he arrives, he sees a horrifying sight. His own brother and nephew are standing there, doing nothing while his daughter is drowning. He pushes aside his shock and dives into the water without hesitation. He grabs her and pulls her out, holding her tightly as she coughs and struggles to breathe. She weakly asks where he had gone, and when she looks at him, she sees deep pain in his expression. As he holds her close, she begins to understand that he is blaming himself for what happened. For the first time, she realizes that beneath his calm exterior, he may be more sensitive than she thought. Feeling sympathy for him, she tells him softly that it is not a big issue and thanks him for saving her. He does not say much, only nodding before carrying her away from the water. But then a troubling thought returns to her mind. She asks if she had not been standing by the pond earlier. Her father's expression darkens as he remembers clearly seeing his brother and Ikwa standing there. He confronts them, but his brother acts as if nothing unusual happened, suggesting he may have misunderstood the situation. For now, he chooses not to push further and decides to take Iselet back to rest. Still, he cannot ignore the strange behavior, noticing that his brother seems to be under heavy pressure. Not long after, that same man storms into a room, his anger spilling over as he smashes a vase. His face twists with resentment as he thinks about how Bernardo has always been favored, and now even a child from a lower background is being treated as a rival to his own son. His frustration boils over as he shouts in anger, while Ekwa watches silently from a distance, shaken by what he has just witnessed. The memory of his father's intense stare lingers in his mind, reminding him how frozen he felt in that moment, unable to help Iselet. A maid soon finds him, noticing his distressed state, and asks what happened. He struggles to speak at first, but finally says that Iselet fell into the pond. Just then, his uncle arrives, carrying Iselet, who is now asleep. He holds her firmly, as if making sure nothing can harm her again. The maid quietly realizes the truth of the situation, but Bernardo's attention is not on her. His gaze is fixed on Ekwa. In a cold voice, he asks if the boy saw everything. He does not wait for an answer before expressing his disappointment. Then, without hesitation, he delivers a punishment. He coldly declares that Ikwa is forbidden from meeting Iselet for a while, then turns his back and walks away, leaving the boy completely crushed. A few days pass, and our protagonist's ankle has fully healed. She starts to wonder why Ikwa has not come to see her, deciding that when she finds him, she will definitely scold him for abandoning her. When she finally spots him in the hallway, She calls out to him with her usual bright energy. But instead of responding, he flinches, turns around, and walks away without saying a word. She stands there in confusion, unable to understand what just happened. Feeling unsettled, she goes to look for Lucia, hoping to get some answers, but her room is empty. As she steps inside, she notices a piece of paper lying on the floor. Before she can examine it, her father calls out to her. His expression is serious as he tells her they need to talk. He explains that she must keep her distance from Ekwa and Lucia, which shocks her completely. Looking up at him, she struggles to understand, but he insists it is for her safety. He tells her that the time for playing is over and reminds her that those children are not truly her siblings. The struggle for succession has begun, and she must be careful. To make things clear, he says a meeting has been arranged. Soon after, the head of the family himself appears. She is startled by the sudden gathering as her grandfather gets straight to the point, mentioning that he has heard about the incident at the pond. Her father confirms that his brother and Ikwa stood by without helping, recalling the disturbing moment. The grandfather dismisses their excuse, calling it foolish, while her father insists that such behavior cannot be ignored. The grandfather agrees and turns his attention to Isolate, asking her a serious question about whether she still wants to maintain a good relationship with them despite everything. Without hesitation, she answers yes, believing that the situation makes it even more important. A faint, tired smile appears on the grandfather's face as he admits he is weary of the conflict. He does not want to see his grandchildren repeat the same division that exists between his sons. Then he makes a firm decision. He declares that it is time to determine the successor of the family. Her father is taken aback, asking if he truly means it, and the answer is clear. The decision will be made now. Calmly sipping his tea, the grandfather explains that he is stepping in because his sons have failed, and he also sees this as an opportunity to confront Eloise. Soon, the scene shifts to a tense room where a young man enters, addressing his father respectfully. The head of the family stands by the window, not even turning at first. When he finally faces him, his expression is cold and unforgiving. He questions him about the pond incident, asking if it is true that he stood by and did nothing while Isolate was in danger. The man admits it without hesitation. The atmosphere grows heavy as the grandfather's anger becomes clear. Yet the son only makes things worse by suggesting that the child should have already been gone. The words are enough to push the grandfather's anger to its limit. His voice lowers, filled with controlled fury, as he tells him that he has crossed a line that should never have been crossed. The son refuses to look at him, remaining silent but defiant. The grandfather then asks a chilling question about when the family became so cold that such behavior could be accepted. The son finally erupts, arguing that strength and ability should be all that matters, and that the family has always been ruthless. The grandfather looks at him with deep disappointment, questioning whether someone who shows no respect for their own family can truly be trusted. The tension between them grows as they stand facing each other, locked in a silent and bitter confrontation. Sylvanus firmly declares that his decision will not change. He states clearly that he cannot entrust the family to someone who lacks heart. His son challenges him, asking if he truly believes he would lose to a child. A faint, knowing smile appears on Sylvanus's face as he calmly answers yes. Then he delivers his final, cutting words, saying that his son will never be able to defeat that child. Unbeknownst to them, Ikwa has been standing outside, listening to everything. His small body trembles as he hears the truth. Moments later, his father storms out of the room, his face filled with anger, walking right past him without noticing. But suddenly he stops and turns back, grabbing Ikwa harshly. He says that it is time to stop ignoring the situation and tells him that from now on, Isolette must be treated as an enemy. His grip tightens as he warns him that he is serious. Lowering himself to meet his son's eyes, he insists that he will never allow the family to fall into the hands of someone like her. Ikwa struggles to respond, but all he can think of is Isolde and how he sees her as family, not an enemy. His father's patience runs out as he tells him that he clearly does not understand and warns him that he will regret it once he loses his place. Ekwa feels completely broken, but still insists that he does not want anyone in his family to harm her. Outside the room, our protagonist has heard everything. Her heart aches for Ekwa, but his words also awaken a strong determination within her. She realizes that despite everything, he still has a kind heart, and she decides that she must protect him. With that resolve, she quietly walks away, thinking that she needs to find a way to bring everyone together. Later, she meets Maryanne and apologizes for being distracted, nearly stumbling as her thoughts overwhelm her. Maryanne quickly senses that something serious is going on and listens carefully as Isolette explains everything. After hearing the situation, Maryanne understands that the root of the problem is the struggle for succession. Suddenly, she suggests a simple but unexpected solution, telling Isolette that she could just come live with her instead. Isolette is left speechless as Maryanne excitedly talks about protecting her. However, Isolette quickly realizes that running away is not what she wants. She remembers everything she has built in this house, the relationships she has formed, and the respect she has earned. She firmly decides that she will stay and face everything. She explains that she believes she can change things, and that leaving would not suit her at all. Hearing this, Maryanne laughs warmly, impressed by her determination, and promises to support her completely. From a distance, Sylvanus watches them, feeling proud as he sees her strength. He realizes that it is now his turn to act. The day arrives when the future of the family will be decided. The next morning, as Isolette prepares herself, a maid rushes into her room in a panic, announcing that there is an urgent message from Sylvanus. Everyone is to gather in the central garden for an important announcement. Soon, the entire family assembles, and the atmosphere becomes tense. Sylvanus stands before them with a firm presence, as Isolette and Ekwa stand side by side, waiting. He announces that he can no longer ignore the conflict within the family, and that it is time to determine the successor. He declares that the competition will be between Ekwa and Isolette, removing the older generation from consideration. Then he sets a strict rule, warning that if either of them harms the other within the house, both will be disqualified. The seriousness of the situation becomes clear as he finishes by stating that the one who loses will be sent away from the main house for a period of time. Our protagonist's eyes widen in shock when she hears about the country house, realizing it is practically the same as being sent away. Panic starts to rise, but Sylvanus calmly tells her that it is meant for her growth. Hearing that this will be a fair contest, Ikwa's eyes suddenly shine with determination as he firmly declares that he will take part. She notices the change in him, how he seems more alive and driven than before. Taking a deep breath, she gathers her own courage and announces that she will also join the challenge. Sylvanus nods, confirming that both of them will compete, officially beginning the test. He explains that the goal is not simply to prove strength or gain his approval. Instead, the one they must convince is someone else entirely. With a slight smile, he gestures toward a quiet figure nearby. It is the head maid, Leatrice. One of the uncles immediately protests, unable to believe that a servant will decide the future of the family. Sylvanus quickly corrects him, stating that she is far more than just a servant. She has been watching over the children closely and understands them better than anyone else, making her the most suitable judge. The task becomes clear. They must earn her recognition as the rightful successor. Ekwa's father feels confident, believing that strength alone will secure victory, and advises his son to focus on improving his sword skills. He is already convinced that they will win. Meanwhile, Isolette and her father begin thinking carefully about the challenge. She feels overwhelmed, knowing she only has 1 week. Her father calmly suggests that she should think about the kind of person Leatrice truly is. That simple advice makes everything click for her. She realizes that she knows almost nothing about the head maid, having always been the one receiving care without ever considering her thoughts or life. Understanding what her grandfather intended, she quickly forms a plan and asks her father to prepare a carriage. With determination in her eyes, she explains that she will work together with others and find a way to succeed. Her father smiles proudly, seeing that she has found her direction. Soon, she sets out on her mission, traveling through the forest until she arrives at a grand estate. Inside, a servant informs Maryanne that Isolette has arrived. Maryanne's expression sharpens slightly as she realizes that the succession battle has begun and that she cannot remain passive anymore. Isolette stands there, suddenly unsure if coming here was the right choice. Just then, Maryanne appears, greeting her warmly with a bright smile. Before she can say much, the Ashford siblings arrive, and the younger one runs toward her with excitement, hugging her tightly. Isolette is caught off guard by the sudden affection, but quickly relaxes. Later, as they sit together, Maryanne gently asks why she has come. Isolette explains the situation, admitting that she must prove herself worthy within 1 week, but has no idea how to do it. Maryanne listens carefully before telling her that she may be thinking too hard about it. She advises her to act as she normally would. Seeing her confusion, Maryanne reminds her of how their friendship began, even under difficult circumstances. She explains that Isolette did not rely on fear or force, but instead listened and reached out with understanding. According to Maryanne, her greatest strength lies in her kindness and compassion. Then she asks her a simple question. Maryanne asks her what kind of successor she truly wants to become, and the question makes our protagonist pause as her thoughts begin to race. She already knows she cannot compete with Ekwa when it comes to strength or battle skills, so instead, she answers honestly. She says she wants to become someone who can care for others and support them gently. As she speaks, she remembers all the people who helped her along the way and realizes that it was their kindness that brought her this far. Hearing this, Maryanne smiles and begins teasing her son, joking that someone as kind and lovely as Isolette would make a perfect match for him. The boy immediately turns red, clearly embarrassed by his mother's bold words. But even through his flustered reaction, he agrees with her advice. He tells Isolette that the best way to win is to stay true to herself. Then he casually mentions seeing someone in town, and that small comment sparks an idea in her mind. In that moment, she knows exactly what she needs to do. Maryanne and her son both promise to support her, and although he is still shy, he quietly shows his encouragement. However, elsewhere, something more dangerous is unfolding. A woman named Sella is writing a letter with intense frustration, wishing that Isolette had never gained Sylvanus' attention. She feels that if not for her, none of this would be happening. A man beside her tries to calm her, saying that everything they are doing is for Ikwa's sake, and reminding her that this plan was her own decision. He assures her that one day their children will understand. Even so, she is unsure and can only hope he is right, as the letter is prepared to be sent away. Back at the estate, Isolette watches Ekwa training with admiration. She notices how skilled he has become, already able to use techniques that he should not have mastered for many years. His growth is frighteningly fast, and instead of discouraging her, it strengthens her determination. She tells herself that since he is working so hard, she must do the same. Later, her maid finds her preparing to go out again, dressed simply and ready to leave. When asked what she is doing, she only gives a mysterious smile and says, "It is a secret for now." The maid feels anxious because she has been leaving every day and returning tired and dirty, but Isolette gently asks her to trust her a little longer. She explains that if her efforts can help bring warmth and unity to the family, then she is willing to do whatever it takes. With that resolve, she rushes out once again. Unseen by her, Sylvanus and Bernardo watch quietly from a distance. They hear her words about wanting a loving family, and Sylvanus gives a small, satisfied smile, realizing that she has found her own path once again. Isolette heads into town, moving through the busy streets until she finds the person she was looking for. She calls out to Gunther, who greets her warmly and comments that she looks healthier. He hands her a heavy wooden box, and she thanks him for helping her obtain it at a low cost. Seeing what she is preparing, Gunther becomes serious and questions whether she truly believes she can compete with Ekwa using something like that. He admits that Ekwa is a true talent, someone exceptional. Instead of feeling discouraged, Isolette smiles proudly, happy to hear her brother praised. She explains that because of his strength, she must find her own way to compete, believing that there is still a chance for her to win. Gunther laughs, impressed by her confidence, and says he is rooting for her. However, his expression suddenly sharpens as he adds that he wants her to win and prove a point, though he quickly returns to normal and encourages her again, reminding her not to forget him if she succeeds. As the days pass, both children focus entirely on their preparations. Ekwa trains relentlessly, sharpening his abilities, while Isolette works just as hard on her own plan. The tension between them grows, not through hostility but through determination. Ekwa steels himself, refusing to fall behind, while Isolette meets his resolve with quiet confidence, ready to face him in her own way. At last, the day of the final challenge arrives. Sylvanas stands before everyone, his expression calm and impossible to read. With the headmaid Leatrice beside him, he announces that the true successor will be decided through this trial. The moment has come for our young heroine. The entire household gathers in the grand garden, and the air is filled with tension. Sylvanas looks at the two children as he begins to speak, his voice steady as he acknowledges that they had little time to prepare. Leatrice offers a soft and encouraging smile, while Sylvanas scans the crowd and says he is eager to see what they have done. It is clear that he will not be easily impressed. Our protagonist and her brother stand side by side, both declaring that they have done their best and are ready to show the results of their efforts. With a simple gesture, Sylvanas signals for them to begin. One of the uncles steps forward and directs his attention to the boy, urging him to present what he has prepared. The boy hesitates for a moment but quickly gathers himself. Taking a deep breath, he draws his sword and releases a powerful blue energy that surrounds him. He confidently declares that he has trained enough to protect the estate. The sight leaves everyone in shock. Even Leatrice cannot hide her surprise as she realizes the level of power he has reached at such a young age. With a determined shout, he swings his sword with full force, sending a massive wave of energy through the air. The attack strikes a large tree, splitting it cleanly in half. The crowd is amazed, and applause quickly follows. He stands there, breathing heavily, but proud of what he has accomplished. Leatrice praises him, clearly impressed by his ability, and even Sylvanas recognizes the extraordinary growth he has shown. The boy humbly lowers his head in response, accepting the praise. However, Sylvanas understands that such rapid progress is not ordinary, and it only proves how talented the boy truly is. Then his attention shifts to Isolette. It is now her turn. Leatrice quietly encourages her not to feel nervous, but our protagonist steps forward without hesitation. She calmly says that before she begins, there is something she wants everyone to see. Leatrice looks confused, unsure of what she means. With a gentle smile, Isolde asks her to follow her to another place. The scene recalls a moment from earlier, when Isolette saw Leatrice secretly speaking with a shop owner in the city. The owner had noticed her love for plants and offered to teach her, but Leatrice had refused because she had nowhere to grow them. The sadness in her eyes had left a strong impression. Now, in the present, Isolette leads her to a quiet area of the estate. There, she reveals a beautiful garden that she prepared herself. She explains that she created it, so Leatrice could finally have a place to enjoy what she loves. Seeing this, Leatrice is overwhelmed, unable to speak as tears fill her eyes. Even the boy watching nearby feels deeply moved by what his sister has done. Turning back to face everyone, Isolde confidently states that the future of the family should belong to someone who can care for others with a warm heart. At that moment, everything becomes clear to Sylvanas. This challenge was never about strength or power. It was about understanding others and leading with compassion. A genuine smile appears on his face as he finally acknowledges her true value. He calls her name, his voice carrying a sense of pride as he prepares to make his decision.